Hello, good evening. My name is Kwabena. I want to share with you productive culture. Culture at the personal level, culture at the company level, organizational level, and culture at the country level. Culture is responsible for our productivity as individuals, as organization, or even as a country. And just as the DNA of an individual or the character of a person is responsible for their productivity, the culture of the business that you build, conscious culture, is also responsible for every productivity of the business. And so it goes to even countries as well. The culture of the country is responsible for the productivity level of the citizens of the country. The culture, the one they told us in school, that is the way group of people live. I would want to go further to say that is a proof of the knowledge, of the understanding, and of the wisdom of a person, at the personal level, or at the company level, same, or even at the country level. So the culture is just the product of the knowledge, of the understanding, and of the wisdom of the group of people that we are talking of. So if it's a country, the culture of the country is same. So if it's a tribe, the tribe's culture is just a reflection of the understanding of life and how things operate in this world. I think that culture is beyond just the drumming and the dancing and the clothes that we wear, the way we name our children, the food we eat, how we prepare them, the kind of houses that we build. Those are more than the culture, because actually those just reflect how we understand how the world operates. So some people say that Africans have a very rich culture, and the fact is that a rich culture cannot produce people who are poor. So it could be rich, but then we have to chat. And so a rich culture should be able to produce rich people, successful people who are taking charge of the issues that their environment throws at them. So it cannot be a rich culture when they still live in things that the environment throws at them. So the culture cannot improve until there is enlightenment. So productivity does not mean losing yourself or your identity. The culture that is productive does not mean that we should just leave whatever we have and go and copy other people because they are productive. Just as my DNA is different from the DNA of my son or the DNA of another person, the way I live my life, the way I interpret issues, the way I see the world is unique with me. The same with even companies. The things that you, the person who has started the business, the things that you give attention to will never be exactly as the other person who also start their business. So whatever it is, no two people can build the same culture at the personal level or even at the company level or at the country level. But the culture that is productive takes into consideration the use of time, the use of resources, and they take into consideration growth. Because once the population is growing, once the business is growing, once you are growing as an individual, problems come. And once problems come in, your culture that you have developed should be able to overcome the problems and make sure that you still live in good health, in good environment, in prosperity, in clear understanding of issues as things progress. So because the way we understand time, it means that the culture is productive at that level of understanding of time, of resources. So it's not just, for instance, if it's business, the culture that you sit down to plan for the business will be responsible for the productivity of the business. So if it's a culture where nobody cares about anybody, if it's a culture that people are not honest, if it's a culture that nobody trains anybody, if it's a culture that we don't care, we don't give any sense of agency to the assignment or the work on the table, then that is allowed. And those things that we have not given attention to will be responsible for the product or for the resource that we get as a company. And the same at the personal level, So if an individual is productive, you can see how they handle a lot of these things, how they handle acquisition of knowledge, how they handle time, how they handle the resources, the other resources that they have, money, how their sense of agency to threat, to problems, to growth, how they treat people. These things go a long way to make sure that the culture is productive or not productive. So productivity has got to do with being responsible to handle issues that confront the entity, whether it's a person, whether it's an organization, or whether it's a country, and they have got to do with, as things grow, even how we acquire knowledge and how we keep data has got to do with culture. Because if your business, every data in the business is just handled anyhow, customer information is handled anyhow, business leads are handled anyhow, how you keep data will show the productivity in the business. And I will draw it down to countries, to our country. We so much talk about the culture of the country, but if you look at it, we have not deliberately or consciously seen that this culture is responsible for the productivity level of the country. So people think that the Ghanaian culture, and the Ghanaian culture is the elegance, is the drumming, is the dancing, is the kente, is the agbaja, is all those things. They are reflective of our kind of understanding at a certain level, until we progress in the knowledge to add to this kind of things that our ancestors were doing. Because if you look at it, our ancestors at least created some things. They created the kente, they created the dancing, they created the music. But we are forcing to keep them at the same status. Once they didn't keep them as the same status, somebody at a point added some knowledge to it. That's why they were able to go from maybe a trivial stage to the technology of weaving the kente, or the way they were manufacturing their drums, or the way they manufactured their farming implements, or even the things that the chief put on them. Somebody taught, and that was the technology. So if we insist that this is how we must do things, then you see that as the population is growing, problems will come. Then we will not be able to handle the sicknesses, we will not be able to handle the food, we will not be able to handle the housing issues, we will not be able to handle the education of the masses, we will not be able to handle the flooding issues, even setting out a plan to host, say, 5 million people, 10 million people living in a city well organized. You cannot just leave things anyhow like that and say that is the culture. No, the culture is responsible for the progress of the people of the country. And so the culture must be driven by knowledge and continuous upgrade of knowledge. So productivity, a productive culture supports its members. If you look at the personal level, you are developing yourself, you're consciously developing yourself. At the business level, same. You consciously want to bring the best in your team. And that's why you have a robust business culture or a company culture. If you leave things anyhow and say that people will be productive, it never works. It never works. So every business, their best strategy is the kind of culture that they have built. So if the culture is weak, it means that the business is weak. It's the same at the personal level. If the personal culture is weak, then it means that your life is weak. And at the country level, is the same. So this kind of culture that we are talking of, consciously train. They train their people, they train themselves, they train the company. And it's a culture that gives dignity to human lives. So a productive culture is not just a culture that has been let to run by itself, because this is how we do things. It will never be productive. It will never be productive, because things never stay as they are. People are giving birth all the time. They are adding to the force of management. So if you leave them like that and say that, oh, this is how we do things, no problem. It means that somebody else will come and take over everything that you have. So a productive culture is consciously built with special interest in people's development, in special interest in constant upgrade of knowledge, in value for resources, how resources are managed. A productive culture does not treat time anyhow. Everything that they put in time, they know that they are going to get that results. So if the whole week you're just using them to drum and dance and handle things anyhow, it means that the culture is not productive. It's not productive. So the culture, if you talk of the Ghanaian culture, so to say, I think that is more than just the drumming, the dancing, and all the things that they told us culture is about. Culture must be productive. Culture should not let the people to live anyhow and say that is our identity. That is not our identity. And it does not also mean that we just go and copy things anyhow because we think that what we have is also not good. No. Anything that we are trying to use time and quality decisions and strategy to get to solve the issues that the people meet, the company meet, the person meets. That, because our understanding of solving issue is different from the other group, by all means, we will go with the same kind of identity, but in progressive form. So I'm not talking of just going to copy anything anyhow and lose whatever that is original to you. No, you build with what you have, but then you are conscious of the things that you can easily lose, which is time, which is the people, which is not being stagnant with the knowledge that you have. So productive culture is always in constant upgrade of self, of knowledge, and they handle their resources very well. And when you see unproductive culture, one of the things that you see that they easily trivialize is time. It's time. If you see anybody who just sits anywhere and does anything, crack jokes, never is not conscious of any time, it means that that person is not driven by anything. So unproductive culture or unproductive cultures are actually not driven by any focus, any goal, any vision. And so productive cultures are driven by vision. At the personal level, at the company level, at the country level, they are driven by vision. They are driven by what they want to be in the next 5 years, in the next 20 years. They are driven, and they see that. And they know that it's not going to take luck. The productive culture is not just going to happen because you leave things anyhow. No, then the 100 years will come and meet us, and we're still drumming and dancing, and we'll still be wallowing in a lot of problems because there is not constant control of resources. The major one is time and the other resources that we have. So there's a conscious effort to set goals, and that is how productive culture is driven. The goals, the mission, they do them consciously, and that's why they get results. So my name is Kwabena. Today being the last day of 2017, we started January, and so quickly it has come to December, and it's December 31st. I am talking about productive culture at the personal level, at the company level, at the country level. They are built with conscious effort. They are built with upgrade of knowledge. They are built with how they handle their resources, time particularly, and money. They don't just leave things anyhow. So when we were growing up, they told us that culture is the way people live. That is true, but they should have added that a way people live based on their understanding, based on the level of their knowledge, and based on the level of their wisdom. Which means that if they increase in knowledge, if they increase in understanding, if they increase in wisdom, their culture must also increase, in productivity. And so growth, development, they are intentionally orchestrated. They are not just let anyhow. And so if you're looking at 2018 December being different from this one, then your culture at the personal level must be driven by productivity. And it means that you make conscious effort, you make conscious plan, you make conscious effort to go for the knowledge that you need for you to get this kind of results that you have. You cannot just spend the time anyhow and hope that 2018 December 31st will be different. It will not be different. And that's why they sometimes say that tradition goes on. Tradition goes on the same because there's not disruption of knowledge, of upgrade knowledge. Whenever there is an upgrade of knowledge, culture will never stay the same. Culture will never stay the same. So the culture is not separate from progress of our society. How we do things, how we live, is not separate from the progress that we are going to make. So if you're not making the progress, especially not the progress that the others have trashed on us, not the ones that they have trashed on us, but the ones that we have consciously, intentionally made, the efforts that we are making ourselves to bring progress, Like the way we are using cell phone and everything. We didn't intentionally sit down to say that we need a cell phone. Somebody else saw them and created them, and we are consuming them. We know that they are benefiting us, all right, but we should have also seen the need to create some of these things for development, for us to solve issues, for us to disseminate information, teaching, building capacity. So culture that is always enforced, cultural change that is always enforced from outside is not as the one that is intentionally developed from within. So what is acquired from improved knowledge and from what we call culture are separate. What I mean by that is that if what your understanding of culture is this is how we do things, improved knowledge will disrupt that. So you don't stay at one level thinking that this is what we are and this is how we drum, this is how we dance, this is how we name our children. In that case, progress is maybe every 20 years we make a little progress. But it also means that people are giving birth constantly. New diseases are coming up all the time. Once population is increasing, it means that you need to solve a lot of problems. Accra could be maybe another 10 million in the next 20 years. Are we prepared for that? And we seem to be separating our culture from administration and from how we live our lives, in terms of we think that the book long people are responsible for organizing the country or the government. But then we can also continue to wear our clothes, eat our food the way we eat, prepare the food that the way we prepare them, without being, we are not open to new technology easily in the name of culture. And that, for me, has to be looked at again, because you will never meet people who are progressing. And I'm not saying that just throw everything you have and go and adapt the other ones. No, they are promoting themselves, and that's actually culture. If you see the man in suit and tie in England, really, that is their culture. That is their culture. And they seem to be upgrading it every now and then, You can keep culture for the children to come and look at them in the museum. But the one that we live every day, the way our ancestors live maybe 200 years, we can keep those in the museum. But we cannot continue to live the way our ancestors lived 2,000 years ago or 500 years ago and say that is how we are. It only reflects that we have refused to upgrade knowledge, upgrade wisdom, upgrade understanding of how life is, of how to take dominion of our environment. And that's why when you have that disposition, then you see that you're overcome by poverty, by diseases, by other people trying to take everything that you have. Why? Because you are just holding on to something that is in constant change. So culture is in constant change for progress, because people are changing all the time and people are becoming better all the time, and technology is increasing all the time. Technology does not really drive culture. I think that culture drives technology, and that's where productivity is. So people who are conscious of becoming productive are conscious of the culture that they have created at the personal level, at the company level, and even at the country level. So you don't lose yourself in the culture. Just because you want to have a productive culture does not mean that you throw everything that you have. No, you build on what you have. You improve on what you have. The research is in building in what you have. You don't just throw everything away and go and bring the Chinese culture here, the Chinese way here, because you think that they are more productive. They also built on what they had, and now it's progressing. So the bottom line is that if you're able to handle the time well, if you're able to handle your productivity well, if you're able to handle your resources well, those themselves will help you to become a productive culture at a personal level and even at the country level. The moment you're conscious of how the time that you're losing will never come back to you, and how you must link them to resource, to growth, to development. If you link them to that, then you see that the things that are not working, that they are forcing us to keep on holding to them, we will leave them, because then we have to get resource. Right? So the constant training will demand that. Constant upgrade of knowledge will demand that the culture must improve. And any community who are always holding on to that, you see that they are always in the disadvantaged position. They are in this disadvantaged position. And we are not saying that just throw everything away and go and bring suit and tie and Western way of doing things. That's not it. It's like your special personal way of doing things. It's different from my way of doing things, but we can get results. Because I don't have to do what you have to do to get results, to take care of my time, to manage my money well, to manage my resources well. That's why we are different. That's why we are unique. And that's why the company that you are building, if you're able to handle the company time well, if you're able to commit to training and commit to constant upgrade of knowledge, if you're able to treat the people well, because productive cultures treat people with dignity, with essence, and that's how they are productive. That's how they are productive. So we measure the progress as well. Productive cultures measure the progress. So you start January to December. In between, you measure your progress and to see if what you set for in January or in December, you are getting at them or you are not getting at them. So these are conscious things that you do. And so the next year is not going to be different until you intentionally build a productive personal culture. And the company is not going to be different until you intentionally build that productivity. And productivity is linked to the progress in knowledge, people development, how you manage the resources that you have, how you manage the time. You are conscious of what you are putting in time and what you are getting. You cannot just waste the time and think that things will change. It never happens. You cannot just waste the few resources that you have, waste them anyhow, and think that the community is going to progress. It is not going to progress. It will still be the same or even to deteriorate, far from what we see this year. So the culture is responsible for the productivity of the individual, of the organization or the company that you are building, of the country as well. And it's like the culture is as unique at the personal level, as unique as the company level, as a country level. That's why if you meet somebody from Ghana, you can see this one is from Ghana, and you can say that other one is from Nigeria. Why? Because of the uniqueness of how they do their things. That uniqueness should not just keep us stagnant. That's why we grow in understanding, in knowledge, in wisdom. And so the culture is the proof of the knowledge, the understanding, and the wisdom of the people, of the company you are building, and of the country. And so if you're not getting results, the culture is responsible. How do we see work? How do we see work? How do we behave when we go to work? How do we handle people? How do we handle the resources that they give us? That is the way the people have been cultured. The people have been trained. And so if you want better results, then you must as well attack that with proper relevant knowledge. So you build that from within the people. So if you go to work next year and you work the same way you worked last year, that you were very lackadaisical, you didn't care about the company, you just lie, steal from the company, and think that the company will grow, it's not going to grow. Why it's not going? It's not growing because you are there and you are not using the time well. You are not working well for the company to grow. The other day I was talking to somebody and I asked him, so how do you see the way Ghanaian workers work? And he said that they work very little, they expect a lot of pay quickly. And I said that, so how do we change that? He wasn't able to tell me how to change that, but he's from another country. We must consciously, at the personal level, even if not at the country level, you must consciously go to work, knowing that you have come to work. You don't go to work to malign the work. You don't go to work to talk bad about the company. You don't go to work to talk bad about the owners of the business. You don't go to work and just treat the time and the resources of the work anyhow. Because it's most likely that if you're going to be with that company for the whole year, your life is going to really reflect how you are working. Because if your salary is not multiplied, it means that your finances and you have financial problems and you're not working anywhere. It means that by the end of the year, you're still going to have the same financial problems. Now, you're going to change that if you work differently and the people you work with see that this man is changed and it's become more productive. Then you see that they will want to give you more, and that's how they raise the money that they give you. And that is how you can also change your finances. You're not going to change your finances if you're not going to upgrade your knowledge of finances as well. So the year is not just going to change because it's 2018. If you don't know, go and ask the people who are 60 and 70. They will tell you that they were at your age and it didn't change that much until they change. So productive culture has constant or deliberate application of force to change things, to make things better, and they don't leave them to culture. They don't leave them to lack. It's not lack, it's not miracle. It's something that you have to consciously do. Growth is conscious effort. Improvement is conscious effort. Our country is not going to change because it's 2018. It's going to change by the quality decisions that the leadership are making, the citizens are making, and making sure that things go the right way. It's not going to change if the quality of our decisions are not changing. So don't just believe that next year your finances will be changing or will be changed whilst you are still operating at the same financial knowledge or financial understanding, the same work ethics, the way you treat things anyhow, the way you are not serious with getting better knowledge, improving yourself, getting organized. If you don't consciously change those things, forget, it will not change. And life will still be frustrating, because that's how life is. You become productive consciously. You put in the time, you work well, you improve yourself constantly, and that's how things are going to change. So those of us who are entrepreneurs, things are not going to change much until we constantly or consciously sit down to strategize to see how things are going to change. Until we become better, the culture of the business is not going to improve, and yet the culture is what is responsible for the productivity in your business. So productivity does not mean that we have to just throw everything that we know, everything that we have. The seed germinates from the same force. The tree is just as a result of the force, the original. Nothing just came, or that boy or that child is growing not by somebody adding more body to the boy or more bones. It's growing from within. So the productive culture grows from within. Constant development with right feeding of knowledge, of understanding, of wisdom, from doing, right effort. So productive culture believes in the quality of their people and constantly changing them and improving their understanding. So if you go to Bonure, for instance, the way we've been weaving the kente is the same. Now the market has increased so much, but we're still using the same technology. So the Chinese will come and pick the designs and go and cut them with their machines and throw them here. But that is an industry that the technology should have improved. We still go to farm with hoe and cutlass. So so you can have 70% of your people going to farm, but you can still be importing a lot of food. Why? Because productivity is low. Why? Because you are not changing the way you do things. You've still been doing this for the last 1,000 years. Nobody does anything for this, especially when it has to do with productivity, producing food to feed the people, producing houses, producing clothes, to solving problems. You cannot do it the same way, because the problems come in different form. So maybe the village was 10,000. Now that town is 50,000. You can have 90% of the people going to farm. You will still not be able to feed them. Why? Because you have not increased the seed. You have not increased the way you handle the weather. If it doesn't rain, you're waiting for the rain. You go to the farm with hoe and cutlass. How are you going to do 1,000 hectares? It's not going to happen. So the culture is not really the one that they define for us. That is the way a group of people live. No, it's the way a group of people live at a certain point in time based on their knowledge and their understanding. The knowledge and understanding, the wisdom that they have at that particular time. So the next generation must not insist that we want to operate, not insist of being productive at the same level that our grandparents operated, and think that that's how we are going to solve the issues that we are going to meet. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And so far, if you look at it, our productivity, if it's not, if our productivity is not linked, progress in knowledge, in understanding, and in wisdom, the culture will still be a lagging instead of it being a dragging, instead of it being to succeed. So your understanding of culture should go beyond what they told you. It's not just about the kente and about the way we eat our food, the way we name our children, the way we dance and drum. The world is going for solutions, for methods, for technology that is changing every minute. The African, we are trying to hold on to something that should have changed long ago. And I think that culture and technology should be linked. Culture and commerce should be linked, because that's how you solve the problems of life. What's the point of keeping on to this culture when your people are dying? When your people are not go to the labor war and they are dying? No, when your people, and you don't leave that for some people and say that they went to school so they'll solve that. No, the culture is responsible for even the people who you send to school, because they are the product of the culture. That's why you see a doctor is training in the school. Now you see how they handle their time. You see how they handle the people. You see how they handle the precious things of the country. Why? Because they are coming from the same culture that is treating time anyhow, treating people anyhow, treating any other resources anyhow. The same culture that is not pushing people to go for better knowledge, better understanding constantly. Not only the one from school, but you personally improving yourself and not saying that this is how we do it and that's it. No. So that's why you can have the professor still holding on to the same way of doing things and trying to separate his understanding of management, his understanding of how things are built, because he thinks that he's a chief in his village and this is how things are done. Why do you have young people coming around you and they are not even wearing shoe and they are bare chested, and you are saying that it's the culture? I find it difficult to understand. No, we cannot keep people in that state all the time and think that you're going to solve problems for the country to develop, because our development, our progress is more important than than of us holding on to those things and trivializing lives, and trivializing lives and just wasting people in the name of culture. You go around some of these villages and you see how people are handled in the name of tradition, in the name of culture. No. Maybe we can change them, maybe it will take time, but at least you as an individual can make the effort to increase your personal culture, because it's responsible for everything that you're going to become for the next year, for the next 2 years, for the next 3 years, for the next 4 years. How you handle things, how you handle people, how do you handle the resources that you have, how you handle people, how you handle knowledge, understanding, how you handle wisdom. And it's not about going to America to copy them. No, that's not what I'm talking of. The Americans should have their way of doing their things. The Chinese should have their way of doing their things. The Indians should have their way of doing their things. And Africans should have their way of doing their things. What is important is that we are bringing results to solve the problems that we have. We are only questioning the culture because it seems that our problems are increasing. Then the solutions are in deficit. That's why we are questioning the culture. If our solutions are way above the problems, then the culture is fantastic. Then there's no need to change it because it means that it's working. But the moment the problems are many, it means that the culture is not working. A rich culture should be able to produce rich people. A rich culture cannot produce poor people, and you call them rich culture. Rich in what sense? A rich culture, honest culture cannot produce corrupt people. The culture should be able to produce leaders who have heart for their people, who want to see progress, who want to see development, who wants to see proper things being done rightly, things being done rightly. And so if you are talking of culture, and we are talking of productive culture, we are talking of things that work. And if they are not working, we cannot hold on to that and say that I'm an Ashanti man, and this is how we do things. I'm an Ewe man, this is how we do things. I'm the Nordna, this is I'm a Dangoba person, this is how we treat women. No, you cannot continue to treat women anyhow in the name of culture. That is knowledge that somebody used 1,000 years ago, and you are here. You still want to treat them like the way your great father, with his understanding of women, treated them. No, it has to improve. It has to improve, So you give them dignity, respect, and that is productive culture. Productive culture gives value and respect to people. They respect time, they respect people, people's ability to make choices by themselves. It's not Western culture. No, it's not Western culture. It's timeless principle for people to have the ability to decide what they want to do with their lives. For you not to just treat people anyhow, slap your maid and say that is culture. Beat girls and say that is culture. That is not culture. That is the way some people, based on their understanding, behave. and now we have better knowledge. If we say that we have better knowledge, then we should see them in the way we do things. So the culture of any people, the person, the company, the country is responsible for the resource that we have, the problems that we have, the way we build the company. If the company culture is you cannot even leave the business for the manager to handle without you coming to see that they are trying to steal, then it's a weak culture. You have not consciously picked people who believe in the philosophy of the business. So you leave 1,000 there, you come, you're not sure whether they have stolen or they have not stolen. It means that you are not constantly building a proper culture where you can leave the business for people to run without you worrying and doubting a lot of their decisions. So the same, if you don't value people, then you can't even trust people. And if you can't trust people, then how can you leave anything valuable for them to run? So a culture that does not respect people sits on talent, sits on abilities, and that's why that culture suffers. And productive culture does not behave that way. Productive culture liberates people to make right decisions. They liberate people to train, to upgrade, to know how to handle time, to know how to handle their resources. And so if you are looking at productive culture, then you look at the time, the people, the dignity that you give them, the resources that you have, and how you make the choices around them. Because if you don't do that, then you see that the destiny is time is going, things are changing in constant change. Population is growing all the time, and then this your culture that you so much hold dearly is the one responsible for your destruction. So my name is Obindako. Today being 31st December 2017. I'm saying that productive culture is responsible for the results that you have at the personal level, at the company level, and at the country level. And so if you want the results to improve, if you want the results to change, then you look at how your culture that you have built at the personal level, at the company level, at the country level, is that which can produce the results that you have. And we are saying that that culture should be able to know the value of time, the value of money, the value of people, the value of constant upgrade of knowledge, of understanding, of wisdom, of ethics. These are the things that bring progress and improvement. And so if you are not doing these things, no. If you are not doing these things, then it means that the culture is weak. And it's not going to change. It's not going to change because you hope so. It's going to change with deliberate efforts, strategy, plan. That's why productive cultures are built. And so if you are not seeing that, you see the way we waste time, you see the way we handle time, and that's why we are where we are. And so personally, if you waste time and you just spend time without even being conscious of it, then your only bet of you having a seemingly successful life is you going against your ethics. That's trying to steal and cut corners. But if you want to go straight, then it means that your time should be so much valuable to you. It means that the knowledge that you have now should be less than the knowledge that you have next year by this time. Next year by this time, you should have been a person who should have read 20 books, 50 books. If you don't understand how business is run, you are the person who should have read about 50 books on how business is run, on how finance is managed, on how people are managed, on how to build a productive culture. This is it, because what is here, what is in the brain, what is this one in your head is one that is going to be responsible for how you are going to create this productive culture that we are so much thinking of. And so when politicians say that they are interested in the country developing, and yet they forget about developing the minds of their people, that is a lie. That is a lie, because there is no productivity without the people thinking rightly and applying them consciously, managing their time well, managing their resources well, treating their people well, believing in their people. These are the things that you do that will make your culture very productive. So my name is Obindako. I'm trying to talk about productive culture, and productive culture is not going to change productive culture is the one responsible for everything that you're going to do next year. So you consciously build them and build them well. And if you do that, you see that your life will change. And growth is not a miracle. Growth is conscious effort. Growth is not lack. Growth is systemic planning. It's increase in knowledge, increase in understanding, increase in wisdom. And that's why you have a powerful brain to develop it. And so at the community level, at the country level, at the business level, the growth of the business is not going to change until the people know better. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next year. Thank you very much. If you're going to go for service, we can go. Thank you very much. Thank you. So see you 2018.